but here I am. Hello.
Hello. Christine's frozen again. Immediately.
Yep.
Immediately upon starting. Well,
Okay.
welcome to the Feminism Book Club.
This is a lot of fun. I can't tell if I'm frozen or not. Everybody sound off.
I think you're okay. Oh.
I don't know.
Hey guys, what's up? My name's Christine and I've got spotty Wi-Fi.
Alright, let's just keep going.
Hi guys, I'm Jess. My channel is Books Have Bedtime.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Christine.
Chaos.
I think I'm also freezing.
Oh my god. Okay, hello. I'm Rachel. I'm from the channel Let Me in the Library. I assume this show is going to go a little bit more smoothly in a second. But so far, this top row is our usual main hosts. We have one person who's going to be joining us, who is also a regular host, Nicole from Bon Bon Reads, but we also have two special guests today. So do you guys on the bottom want to introduce yourselves a little bit?
You can go first.
I'm Tammie from the channel Tammie Tries to Read. Yeah.
And I'm Lisa, and my channel is With Love Lisa.
Sweet. Okay, so while Christine fixes her Wi-Fi, which I think we're doing, we read We Hunt the Flame this month, and we're planning to read We Free the Stars the next month. This is the first book that we picked for the Fantaseries book club, where we read fantasy series which tend to fall into the more like polarizing category, where some people really love these books and some people really don't, and then we talk about it. So this started because we did the Cruel Prince read along, and it was really fun, and we decided to turn it into a book club. So that's what we're doing here. So maybe we want to do like a brief non-spoilery recap of We Hunt the Flame to just sort of talk about it before we get into main spoilers and plot points and stuff like that. So anybody want to give a quick recap? Non-spoilery? Maybe somebody who finished the book?
I do not volunteer as tribute.
Hello,
I don't
everybody.
know
I'm so bad at describing books.
So
Christine is back.
can't
That's
tell-
good news.
I can't tell if anyone can see me or not.
We can see you.
Yeah.
Here's Nicole.
Hi! Okay. Great. Perfect timing.
Okay. So, Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself really quick? This chaotic start. I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi.
Coley from Bon Bon Reads. To meet everyone.
Oh wait, Nicole, you're a little bit echoey right now. Oh, now we can't hear you at all.
Wait, Nicole, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Okay.
This is
Wow.
chaos.
We're off to a great start, guys. Nicole's going to troubleshoot her issues. But I'll give a little recap of We Hunt the Flame, because that's what we're here for. This is the live show for We Hunt the Flame. As chaotic as it is, we're off to a great start. All right, so essentially we have our main character, Zafira, who is a hunter who kind of provides for her community in this land that is like split up into like these 5 different states. And then on the other side of this, we have Nasir, who is, I guess, like our other main character, our other point of view, and he is the prince of
Death.
Saracen.
Well, that too.
He is also the Prince
Yes.
of Death. Yes. Common nicknames are Prince of Death and Darkness and everything else. And so essentially these two get put on a quest to go and find magic, because magic right now it's like in the world, but no one can use it. Like they don't know what's going on. And other than this really crazy forest that likes to basically eat people, they don't really have much use of it. So they go on a quest to find magic again, and their paths cross and chaos ensues. It's the basic level premise of the book. We decided to obviously read this book because a lot of people loved it and a lot of people hated it. Do we want to maybe give our ratings and kind of go from there?
Yeah, sure.
So
I'll start.
I guess. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. So I had a really tough time rating this because it's like I liked it, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be. So I think what I'm settling on, it's somewhere in between a 3.5 and a 4. My final rating, I will decide by the 31st of this month. But that's where I'm at. I'm at a 3.5 or a 4 because I enjoyed it. But like, did I want a little bit more from the characters, from the romance, even from the setting? I was like, I just want a little bit more. But keeping in mind that it is still a YA journey, that, you know, I don't know, sometimes how the characters act in things, it just makes me lean a little bit towards a lower rating. But anyway, so that's where I'm at. Go ahead, Jess, take it away.
Yeah, I kind of felt similarly. I kind of wanted a little bit more from it. And I think some things were a lot different than what I was expecting. Like, I was really pumped for the, like, trope of the girl pretending to be a guy to survive. And, like, that doesn't last very long at all. So I was a little bit bummed about that. Because I just love when that's, like, an element in the romance, too. And it's, like, bisexual energy, you know. But I digress. And I kind of thought the plot was a little boring. So I think I'm settling on, like, between a 2.5 and a 3 rating. But those are my overall thoughts.
Yeah, I really wanted Zafira and Yasmin to get together, and then as soon as
I felt that energy too. I was like, I'm sorry, but she's saying you're like the soul. What did she say? The fire of her soul.
Yeah, it's like a twin flame. Like,
yeah, and I was like, it sounds like you and Yasmin need to get together, my girl.
Like, not to derail the ratings part, but literally they spent like every interaction with them was like, I love you, but you're getting married. Oh my God, you have a husband now. And it was like, I understand that you have a husband, but like, I just, moon of my life, heart of my heart. And I was like, get married. Like,
I know.
What's going on?
Like, even a moment when I thought they were going to kiss, like right before her wedding or whatever. And I was
there
like,
were so many moments where like she would just stand like right next to her at all times, and they were just like, "I love you," and now I can't like cuddle next to you at night. And I was like,
well, even Yasmin was like looking at her when her husband came out, like at her wedding ceremony.
Yeah, I was
guys, get it together.
So anyway, that's
not to derail.
Not exactly, yeah, not to derail. I took a lot of notes on this, and I really like certain elements of it, but kind of again like what other people are saying, it didn't do everything that I wanted it to do, at least as far as I've read. I didn't technically finish this book, but I did read a recap of the end, so I feel a little unfair truly rating it until I finish it tomorrow, which I will. But I do feel like I really liked certain things with like elements and world building and just like building up a magic system and stuff like that, but the pacing is really killing me, so I kind of feel like I have to sit somewhere around a 3-star right now. Final rating to be determined. I have no idea.
We'll know in a day.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Woohoo! So I completely agree with what everyone was saying. I think for me, like, I know I love a book when I can't really put it down or I'm getting emotional about it. And I felt very detached by the tragedies that occurred or all the angst. And that's how I knew that it wasn't going to be a 4 or 5-star read for me. Personally, I didn't have a problem with the writing, but I don't know. The romance didn't seem very believable to me. And I don't know if that was just for me, but it just kind of seemed like abrupt, and I didn't sense the chemistry between Nasir and Zafira. But so I think I'm going to be giving it a 3.5 star.
Well, I am the odd one out. I gave it 5 stars. But I also, like, I had problems with it, but I just had, like, such a fun time reading it. Like, I definitely had problems with, like, the pacing and the writing and things like that. I totally understand, but I was like, I'm into this. This is fun. And I think just, like, the experience, I was like, okay, 5 stars.
Yes.
I am in the exact same boat as Lisa. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is my new personality, this whole series. Like, I love
feel that.
this book. Hafsah's writing is top tier, I think. And I understand the criticisms. I just don't personally care about them. Like, I get that it's very slow paced, but I prefer slower paced books. So like, I think not to spoil it, but the second book is much faster paced. So like, for me, actually, I prefer the first book because I love that slow pace. I love like getting to like immerse yourself in the world and like just getting to know everyone, and instead of like just focusing on the plot. Like, I'm very okay with like the plot being like secondary to everything else.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I have a cousin who reads a lot of fantasy books, and she was like, look, the first one is slow. We like the story, we like the characters, but the second one is faster and we like it even more. Like, it's even better. So like, if you're kind of about the first one, the second one is going to do a lot more for you. But yeah, I mean, and that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. Like, a 3.5 is not a bad rating for me. Like, I still, like, me not enjoying it would be a DNF. I'd be like, well, guys, it's a sad day, but today was not the day for We Hunt the Flame.
I wish Noelle
and I
was here
did
because
find
she
myself,
actually
like-
did DNF it.
What?
I wish
Noelle.
Noelle was here because she DNF'd it.
Oh yeah, I know. And
Add some spice
I
to
do
the
want to touch on that
conversation.
too, because I feel like it's easy to DNF this story if, like, A, you don't have a glossary, right? Because you're confused about all the words and you're like, what's going on? If you're not familiar with them. And then B, I feel like there is so much going on that almost if it's on audio without like seeing the story, it might be a little bit harder to like take it in. And I know that Noelle was doing it on audio, and she also had issues with the person who was actually doing the audio, like the name.
Yeah, I had similar problems with it as well. Because I feel like there's 2 narrators for this. One which usually does like Zafira's perspective, and the other one that does Nasir's. And like, usually when there's books that have like writing that I'm not necessarily familiar with all the language, so like all of the Arabic words and also all of the words that are specific to We Hunt the Flame, or also the character names, I really like to hear what they're supposed to sound like, so I can like just sort of tell that I'm talking about it correctly. And so I liked that in theory, but I tend to usually listen on higher speeds, and this one really made me slow down to fully understand everything they were saying. But it wasn't really like I could understand what the words meant out of context for the story, but I also just felt sometimes the way the narrators would say certain like ordinary words like sibling or like turned or like something that just has like a short vowel turn at the end, I was like, what? And I had to just keep rewinding all the time to like fully hear the sentence, and it was just a regular ordinary sentence. So I don't really know why that was such an issue, but I just feel like at certain times the audio narration either like dipped, so I couldn't totally understand what was going on. So I definitely felt like ebook or like physical book was sort of the way to go for a lot of these things. And also, like, I mentioned this when we were doing our sprints for We Hunt the Flame earlier on, but I got a lot more out of reading it physically because there is so much, there are so many parts of this lore that is really built into, or that's really experiencing, drawing from the culture. That's what I mean. It's drawing from the culture, and it's really cool to read about that stuff and also go through the glossary and say, like, now I understand what all these things are, and it helps me to really picture like the types of foods or the types of clothing that people are wearing that I'm not familiar with for the most part. So I do think like audiobook normally is my preference. In this case, not really.
It's so
Yeah, I agree.
interesting.
The audiobook was.
Oh yeah, rough.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the audiobook was not like. Also, the female narrator halfway through the book decided she was gonna start pronouncing Altair's names differently, and I was like,
Yeah.
for what reason? Like, there's just no reason for this.
To make it a little confusing.
Yeah,
But like, I don't know, it's just so weird because I did the whole audio for the Daevabad, and like I know I keep comparing Daevabad to everything, guys, but like it has some similar like cultural references in it, and it was not hard for me to like comprehend that at all. But for this one, I felt myself like I slowly had to read it, which is not a problem. I like that. Like, it's like what you said, Tammie. Like, I liked kind of like being slow and like getting to know the characters and things like that. But I can see how if your expectation is like this like real plot driven, like fast paced fantasy with like, you know, these fun little quirky romantic moments, like I can see how that would kind of make a rating go a little far down. I just wanted to quickly say hello to people in the comments so that you guys know we're not ignoring you. But hello, we're glad that you're here. And hopefully you guys got some pretty good ratings. Let's see, it was a 3.75. I think it was beautifully written. Yeah, I think the writing was so descriptive, like so good, you know?
Like Nasir's first chapter, I loved that because we finally get to see like what's this deal with this guy that I've heard so much about on the back of this book. And like there's just so much I think, where is he? Is he in Saracen? I think when it begins, but when he's like going to kill somebody and all of like the markets and everything that he's seeing and all the things that he's smelling, and then he's like, I'm gonna go kill this guy now. But there's like all of this that sort of like slowly reveals itself about the world that's also just very beautifully explained, and it's not like overly flowery, but it's like just the right balance that like really makes you feel immersed in what's going on, even though it could have been a short chapter where he just shows up, kills someone, and leaves. Like there's a lot that we get to see that without like Hafsah Faizal expressly saying like, I'm going to show you the world now, which was really cool. I do feel like sometimes like there was a little bit too much though of like the exact same thing happening over and over again after that, where like after the wedding and after they were like, we're going to go on this mission, like almost every chapter from there until a character death, it was almost like the exact same thing over and over again for a while for me.
Yeah, and she did do this thing where she would be like, I almost would think it would be foreshadowing, but she would question that almost the audience asking, and she would be like, actually, let me see if I can find an example, but basically she would ask exactly like, so what was the meaning of the Silver Witch, or like, who is the Silver Witch? And I'm like, that's what I'm asking. Like, who is she? What's going on? Because I was telling Rachel when I first started reading, I was like, if the Silver Witch is like a vampire or something, I'm gonna
you were like, I want to know what the deal is with the vampire, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Well, because I didn't know. I was like, I know she's like obviously some kind of creature or something.
You were on like page 30 and you were like, the vampire is like my favorite character. And I was like, are we reading the same book right now? Like,
vampires are always my favorite characters. But yeah, no, it was fun. Speaking of characters, who did you guys like the best? Like, who was your fave? Mine was Altair.
I think Altair.
Altair.
He was so fun.
He cracked me up.
So
I love Kifa as well.
I did like the narration for Altair because like the narrator would always like make his voice just sound very like jovial, like we have to do this thing now, and I was like,
oh my god, and like the little epilogue part at the end, that was the most emotional I got when he was like, they left me. I was like, oh my god, no.
That was one of my red tabs. I was like, I can't believe these people left him and they didn't even look for him.
That was like the first emotional reaction I had throughout the entire book.
That was rude. And he's like watching them go away. I'm like, y'all really left this man. Okay.
Yeah, how did they not notice?
Like, they didn't even look for me.
I
don't know. Okay, look, like me reading the recap of this, they were like, this thing happens, and then this, and then this, and I was like, wow, oh my god, so much action. They were like, then they get on a boat, and then after they already set sail, they're like, wait, where's Altair? And I was like,
no, that's not true though, because they did be like, oh, we have to go back and get him, like Nasir, and they said that before they left, but the Silver Witch was like, no, we have to leave him and like make a plan to come back and get him.
And I was
like, and then they set sail.
The Silver Witch, this is your son. I mean, spoilers, y'all. Yeah. Okay, if you're in this part of the video, it's spoilers. But I'm like, this is your son, and you are literally like, leave him.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a lot of alarms in this whole entire thing about Altair and Nasir's relationship. I was like, they are related for sure. Like, just like the way that it was written, I'm like, they are for sure related, if not brothers. Like, she slept with someone else. Like, it's a whoop-de-whoop situation.
Yeah, they have like such, like banter-filled like relationship with each other.
And Zafira even says like, she's like, you know, you guys are really close. You act like that you're in sync, like you're the same, you know, da 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 da. And I'm like, when, you know, when writers allude to that, obviously they say it for a reason, you know. It's not just because
Yeah.
they're friends, because they're not really friends at that point.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love that guy. I wish they
Well,
hadn't left him.
I feel like this is like end of live show discussion stuff, but like, do you guys think? I guess if you've started the second book, maybe don't answer. But do you guys think that Altair is going to become the villain because of what happened at the end?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think Hafsah likes him too much.
Yeah.
I think if anything, he'll do what he did. He'll do what Benjamin did. Or Benjamin.
Did Benjamin die? Okay. I'm literally out here like, what happened again? Like, I'm pretty sure he died, but then also like Altair was fatally wounded, which was why they were like, should we go back for him? Nah, he's probably dead. It's fine. Which was how the recap was written.
No, not really. It was like the Iron whatever like captured him as like a hostage. I don't know.
But
yeah, they didn't think he was dead. They knew he was captive, but they just didn't think now was the correct time to save him.
To go get
they had to go and regroup.
They listened to the Silver Wedge.
Because they made it sound like, I think it was the lion who like basically kidnapped Altair at the end. So then I didn't know if maybe he would like influence Altair the way that he has with the Sultan. Again, spoilers. Maybe?
He definitely has him. Like he's in his clutches.
Yeah.
And you know, it could be a situation where he does like he did to old Nasir's daddy, like he's just takes over his brain and starts making him act wonky.
It
like,
could be interesting for like a battle between like our little group. What's
interesting enough is also Nasir is always talking about how he's darkness. Like he's like, I'm dark.
Yeah. But meanwhile, it's gonna be like,
and there is like essentially the light, you know. So then that is a question of like, okay, if you have a battle between the light and the dark, like who wins, you know? Especially since we know who Altair's daddy is. So. DNFing. So I know a lot of people did DNF because of the pacing. Anyone in the chat, like, did you DNF for another reason or was it just too slow? The dialogue seemed a bit cheesy and I had issues with Nasir reading too similar to Elias, but not in a good way. Interesting.
I disagree.
I
hated Elias.
Did you listen to the audiobook? Because maybe it was just the narrators.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 10 minutes in and it's truly ingrained in my heart. So pacing was the only issue I had and I gave it a 4-star. Hello. I didn't finish here for support.
I think someone said that they finished last night and they were really glad that they stuck with it and they were agreed with everyone who said it was slow in the beginning but also found themselves getting invested in the character stories, especially Nasir, and they rated it 4.5 stars. So we have like quite a few like different opinions in our Discord chat where a lot of people are saying like it's good, I don't like it, I really like it, etc. and so forth. But it was very interesting to see a lot of people in like the first like 2 chats that were for like chapter 1 to 19 and chapter 20 to 39 being like, I don't know if I like this, and then like to chapter 40 to 59 being like, what? I never saw this coming. What is going on? Because that's the part where we're starting to get the reveals about like who was working for who, because then we sort of see that like, okay, again, from my knowledge, Benjamin was kind of controlling, or like he had Altair spying for him, and Altair had, what's her name? Starts with a K, or Kulsum? Spying on Nasir.
Maid.
And so she never even loved him?
Yeah, this was a whole web of lies. Everything was a lie, in my opinion. And I will say that I liked the plot points, but like, I don't know if I'm a jaded fantasy reader. I did like write down things as I was going, you know, tabbing and things like that. And I guessed a lot of what was going to happen. So that was like the only thing. But like, I still liked the plot, even though I knew what was going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was nice. Like, I thought things were nice. which is, I guess, why I rated it a 3.5. I'm like, it was nice. I enjoyed it. But I don't know. What did you guys think?
I think Zafira not liking ice cream and garlic was like a real turnoff for me. Like, they're literally, she's
interesting.
She's like, I don't like garlic. And I was like,
I felt the same. I was like, don't hurt me like that.
Weird thing. Weird hill to die on.
And there's another time where like people were eating ice cream and she's like, oh, people eat ice cream, but we live in a snow haven. And I was like, okay, like
Debbie Downer.
It's practical.
like
I hated how she kept calling her like her people that lived in her town like the snow brains or whatever. I was like, why are you so mean to like the people in your community?
That was such a good like twist though. Like if someone was like, oh my god, you have snow for brains, I'd be like, I cannot come back from that. Like
what happens when the snow melts? Yeah. Yeah.
I will also say there was one thing that was like a real pet peeve for me that like just happens a lot in like YA fantasies a lot, which is when there's like a fake curse word kind of. So like in this one it was like skies, which is supposed to be like, oh my god. So like I kind of feel like almost every other paragraph in Zafira's perspective was like, skies, this is what's happening on. And I was like I understand like putting in a little bit of like extra wordage for fun, but that's always a huge pet peeve of mine when someone just like makes up a curse word thing, but it's just like very jarring, I think, because like the other example I could think of is like Daughter of the Pirate King, and their curse word was stars. So it was like, it's always like a sky thing, and it's always just like, stars, I can't believe they're making me do this thing, and like, skies, it's just my best friend, she's just getting married, it's not like she's gonna be dead, skies, and I was like, I don't like that. Like, for me, that's a huge turnoff, personally, in reading. So like, as much as I really liked the writing, every time I saw the word skies on the bottom of the page, I was like,
She had another word in there too, because they say sands as well. They don't actually say like English sands, but I want to say it's Arabic that they say like sands all the time, because as I'm going through, I'm like looking up to see what the words are, because I'm like, what is this? I don't know anything. So I know that they also said sands a lot as well. But personal preference, I would say.
There was also that thing with like the sentence, like she would split up one sentence between like 3 lines. I don't know if you read the audiobook, if that translated, but it was like, and then she went to the ground.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
That
I didn't
felt
like it.
very. That felt very N.K. Jemisin like to me, because that's how, I don't know if any of you've read N.K. Jemisin, but like that is something that she uses to like emphasize certain phrases and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it felt very Jemisin like.
Yeah.
That also happens in the Shatter Me series. I don't know if you guys have ever read
does
these
it?
books.
No.
But I was
Yes.
like,
I know Maggie Stiefvater also does it. I've seen it in quite a few like YA books, I feel like.
Yeah,
But
it felt like it happened
It's
like
just kind of
every chapter.
unnecessary. Yeah.
it did happen quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that as a whole. Like, if that's the way that you decide to write, that's fine. But I just feel like it's a little bit too much when you're emphasizing nothing. Because a lot of the times the chapters would end, and it seemed kind of like, I know oftentimes you kind of have to end on like a little like, ooh, cliffhanger, and then hang on for the next person's perspective, and then we'll be back. But a lot of the times, like, it felt like, oh, what's the cliffhanger? And then they would just say something really like asinine, and then they would just move to the next chapter. So sometimes I just felt like they wanted to have like 90 something chapters just to have them, but they were so short in between. After a while, it was like Nasir's perspective, and then there was like 3 pages, and then it would also be like Zafira's perspective again, which means there's really only so many like cliffhangers that you can do that are actually real cliffhangers,
Right.
that aren't just like continuing on the story. So whenever they did that, and, like they broke things up, it just sort of felt like, did we have to do that? Not really.
Yeah, like why?
Me and my short attention span loves the 2-page chapters. So I was like,
I love 2-page chapters, but when you try to make each one like, wow, eventually I'm like, that's not exciting.
It doesn't mean anything
Well,
to me. No,
I-
yeah, I like the short
I
chapters.
like the
but
short
I do agree
chapters,
with
but
Rachel.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't really notice anything exciting happening anyway. So
Jess was like, I don't know where the tea is, but it's not here. Also, their point of views kind of overlapped a little bit,
Yeah.
which I don't mind different point of views. Like, I actually prefer it. Like, I like getting in other people's brains, but I don't like it when information overlaps. And it's not just kind of like in this book how this was written, but like it can happen when people they have a group of friends and something happened to them, and so you like experience the thing as the point of view, and then the person goes and tells like their group of friends, so like you're getting the information twice from a plot. And that didn't happen like heavily in this book. I just kind of noticed it intermittently, but I was like, ooh, I just pick a POV and tell me what I need to know, and then we can move on. You know what I mean? That's like one of my pet peeves when I read, because I don't like to waste time. I'm like, let's have every single word mean something, and then those little cliffhangers at the ends will mean more to me. Okay. Anyway, but I still had a fine time.
Yeah, I found an example of what I was talking about with like the end of a chapter being something. So this is the end of chapter 5, and this is when it's after the wedding, and Dean and Zafira are talking to each other, and Dean says something like, "Oh, do you think that like now that Yasmin's married, then she's going to stop being so silly and she's not going to have her knack for mischief?" And Zafira's like, "Oh, well, her husband loves her as she is, so why would she have to change anything?" And he's like, "I just think once you're bound to another, you change. And for the happiness of the one you love and for your own, you change without knowing it." And then there's like a little bit more talking, and Zafira's like, "How?" And then it just has like a long thing that's like, "He looked at her, but she couldn't turn her face to his because now there were other words involved, questions and pleas, thoughts and futures, invitations and denials. His answers was soft, a brush of words against the small hairs at the shell of her ear as relations and song permeated the still air. I wish I knew." Chapter 6. So it's just sort of like, I know that they're trying to like be a little deep and edgy at times, but occasionally I just felt like, can you just do the next chapter? like you're doing a lot of things that I just don't feel like are necessarily necessary. It's beautifully written, but it didn't need to be there. That's all. If you couldn't tell, I'm much more like, let's get to the action. So for me, the slow pacing was not my favorite. But
yeah, see, what I read, I distinctly remember reading that and being like, I love them.
Oh, Tammie's like, I love it, and I'm like, oh,
My heart.
No.
I feel like this is one of those books where it's like, if you like the characters, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
If you don't like the characters and you don't connect to them on an emotional level, this is not going to be a book for you. I feel like this is very much one of those books that completely hinges on how you feel about the characters.
Very character driven, I would say. What did you guys think about the feminism and the fact that so much of what happened with Zafira? Oh no, I'm sure she'll be back.
She's gone.
Welcome to the top, Tammie. And
I've been booted.
But I was wondering what you guys thought about how Zafira kind of had this thing near the beginning of like never showing that she was a woman as the hunter or the huntress. And there were obviously like a lot of girls in the village that were not allowed to do certain things. Like there was the baker girl who was really good at baking, but as soon as her dad had a fall, they're like, just marry the girl off and have like anyone else go bake and stuff like that. And then when she meets with the caliph, they're like, you should show who you are and it'll pave the way for other people. I know that that's sort of like not even the real focus of the whole story, but it is a lot about like who Zafira is as a person. So I was curious about what you guys thought about that whole thing.
When she leaves and she shows the caliph who she is, I understood that she wanted to like make better for women, but in that moment, all I could think of was they're gonna punish her family for what she did, and yeah. I specifically hate that moment. I was like, no, because you're basically mucking stuff up and leaving, and your family is the one who has to deal with it. You know, after the caliph just said he was going to take care of them and like do all this stuff for you. And
yeah,
now
and
you're
then
going to piss him
angry.
yeah, it didn't sit well with me because I don't know. I guess if like your whole life you've been trying to protect your identity so that you protect yourself and your family, that's what I would be thinking of. I wouldn't be like, yeah, this one time as I'm going away into, the unknown, I'm just gonna let my hair fly. So that's kind of how I felt about that. And then like it was crazy because while she was in the Shar, she wouldn't take her dang cloak off.
Yeah.
I'm like, who are you keeping it on for? The Caliph has seen you, ma'am. Anyway. Like she had heat stroke and she was like, I'll never take this cloak off. I don't care. I'll die right here.
She's so
in the desert.
stubborn.
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't make sense. The character
I
choice.
feel like it was because it was like her connection to her dad, but then at the same time when she loses it later on, it's like she doesn't really care that much. Like,
yeah, he said, I don't have your cloak, or like I forgot your cloak.
And she's like, okay, just make out with me, it'll be all right.
Prince of Darkness. It's okay, we all fall prey.
Yeah. I don't know. I totally agree about the thing on the, like, right before she was about to embark on the quest. And it seemed like everything was worked out. And the Caliph was like, don't worry, your families can stay in my little palace. It'll be fine. And then they're like, do the cloak thing, do it. Like, oh my God, the woman can't rule unless you do this. It just sort of felt like they, like, put her in a position to do this thing that seems more suitable to, like, the end of the story, I guess. Kind of like, I mean, not every story has to follow like the same typical like YA structure or anything like that at all, but it does often kind of seem like you have to go on the epic quest first and do the thing and then return and then make things better for the future. But it just sort of seems like, are you sure this is a good idea? And then for some reason when she took it off and everyone's like, a woman, terrible. Then it seems like they were like, don't worry, we can tell, like, the Caliph will definitely not go back on his word. And, like, I knew the Caliph is supposed to be a good guy, but I wasn't sure how good of a guy he's actually supposed to be, because it just seemed like plenty of people who are, like, good people are really sexist, and it influences their actions. So if, like, the entire community of people in the entire caliphate all act this way, I just found it very strange that all of a sudden they would just be like, don't worry, it's fine. Like, if you're so heavily influenced by that sexism, I don't know that everything would really just totally be fine. So I'm curious to see, like, in book 2 when they come, I assume they're going to come back to, like, all the different regions, how that will affect things. Because, like we were saying before, like, that's an important part of the story, or a cool part of the story that we don't really get to see as much anymore, with like her trying to like pretend to be a man, and what happens because of that. But
right, and like the one thing we do know about him is that he does hate women. Like,
yeah, he is not a wife guy. He's not a fan of women.
Yeah,
not here for the girlies.
And I think even like right before the end of the book, what?
Oops.
Am I frozen?
Mm-hmm.
Is it me?
We can still hear you, Christine. Oh, maybe she is frozen.
I thought it was just me.
No.
Nope, she's back. She's back.
Oh my
Hello,
God,
Christine.
I'll never be away from this.
Oh no.
There's a part of
Oh my God, somebody please.
Wait, I can't
Christine
tell if I'm
needs
frozen
to
or
put, like,
not. Somebody help me.
Christine, put a router on your wish list right now. Like, this is not. What were you saying, Jess? While we wait for Christine to unfreeze.
Oh, I just said he wasn't here for the girlies. That's all I said. It's not a important comment.
Oh, it was important.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to guess what Christine was going to say? Because she said something about the end. She said, even at the end, and then we didn't hear anything else after that. So I don't know what that's about. Okay. What did you guys think about the like plot twist reveal with the sisters, 6 sisters, and V? Okay. the Silver Witch.
I thought that was interesting. I was concerned that Nasir like never recognized his mom. I was kind of just wondering like when she left his life, like why? Because it seems like Altair knew the whole time.
Yeah, but Altair is also like 90 years older than Nasir.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because he's half.
Maybe I missed that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's like spent a lot more years with his mother.
Okay, I see. That makes sense.
Nasir.
Okay. Got it.
Huh. Interesting. I'm like reanalyzing a lot of things. Hello, ma'am. She's back.
Hey.
She's back.
I'm so sorry. I'm so stressed about this. I've never had Wi-Fi problems, and for some reason, the last 2 live shows have been crazy. Anyway, carry on. Whatever you guys were saying, I don't know. I agree.
We were talking about the 6 sisters and the Silver Witch, and how that went down.
The plot reveal,
Yes.
the identity reveal, really. So interesting because she was one of the 6 sisters, and then she takes the identity of Benjamin's mom's sister. She like killed her, you know?
She did?
Yeah, well, I guess you haven't got. I'm sorry.
That wasn't in your summary.
No, it's my own fault. You should spoil the whole book for me.
But yeah, she takes the identity and she says that. She's like, yeah, I killed her and took her identity. And that's when Nasir's like, so everything in my life has been a lie. That's what you're telling me. And she's like, no, I still love you. You're still the best, you know, whatever. But I just thought that was so, like, I don't know. I laughed when I read that. I was like, what's happening? I don't know, but what did you guys think?
Wait, so how come he didn't... She wore the face of somebody that he would have known. Like, whether it was actually, like, his mother's face or it was, like, the aunt's face or whatever. But, like, she was literally in the palace all the time. How come he didn't recognize her?
Exactly. I think she, as the Silver Witch, she was her true identity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when she was his mom, she had taken on the identity of the woman she killed.
Okay.
Physically.
But when they were like, hey, the Sultana has died of a mysterious illness, did she just, like...
She faked her death. Mm-hmm.
Why?
She did. And she did that because I guess she feared the Lion of Night so much. Which brings me to my next question. How did you guys
send her
feel?
kid to his den instead.
Oh, yeah. Sent both of them.
Yep,
Okay.
both of them. Yeah. She's a great mom of the year, honestly.
Yeah, she's doing it, you know. Silver Witch.
What does everybody think her intentions are? Like, what is up with her? I don't know. Is she actually helping them, or is she like leading them?
I don't know.
Is it like a Dumbledore situation?
I mean,
Sacrificing him? Like
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but
it seems sus. Everything seems sus, honestly.
Yeah.
Like from the moment Zafira was in the Rs and she was talking about the darkness whispering to her, I was like, oh, boo boo, this is somebody, you know, somebody's tricking you. And then Nasir was talking about the same darkness. I was like, y'all, no. And then she goes to the darkness's house.
what?
Yes, Rachel, you missed it.
Oh my god.
She pops into the darkness's house.
I can't wait
I'm
to read this
obviously
tomorrow.
simplifying it.
And then for the next, like, the 5 hours at work tomorrow, I'll be like, do you know this happened? Everyone will be like, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
We read the assignment.
I did not.
Rachel did not understand the assignment.
I did not understand this assignment. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, so how did you guys feel about the Lion of Night being everything? Like being the darkness?
Honestly,
being the
I feel
daddy?
like as far as like the beginning parts of it where they were like, hey, there's this guy, he's called the Lion of Night, and there's a thing with him, but don't worry about it. And then like it was like chapter 53 when they brought him back and they were like, the Lion of Night because of this. Like I guess there was some stuff earlier where I think they were in the marketplace or something and Zafira saw the lion statue She was like, I don't know why they immortalized lions, because here is the whole lore drop of the Lion of the Night. And then later on they were like, the Lion of the Night is not a good guy. And then I personally don't really understand why Benjamin just had all his knowledge and just did not share it. Like, he would just, like, not share it, and then they would, like, fight Ifrit, and then he would be like, all right, here's chapter 2 of my story. And then they would fight more Ifrit, and then, like, he would just keep, like, slowly revealing stuff, but I was kind of like, Benjamin, you don't have to be Hafsah Faizal. You could just tell me the whole thing right now. There's no reason for that.
I'm not sure if he ever explains himself, does he?
I don't think so. I don't really know, like, what his...
I feel like it's even brought back up in it.
Because he's, like, out of the picture now, so I don't know what
There
his...
he gone.
Yeah, he gone. Bless him.
But with, like, the actual lion, like, I think it's an interesting story for the whole Lion of the Night. But hold on, let me look at my notes. Who is this man? He was, okay, his mother's Ifrit and his father's Safin, and murdered. What? Wait, hold on. Sorry.
Murderer.
I was like, what happened? Murdered by pure-blooded Safin, who banned the lion for magic, and then the lion just learned everything empowering himself with blood magic. And then he was like, okay, here's the thing that doesn't make sense. He's like, I want to rule the world, so I'm going to go for the Gilded Throne. Even though he, being so knowledgeable, he should know that he's not as powerful as the 6 sisters who had the throne. So it seems weird to make a play for it unless he was so smart. He's like, I have foreseen everything that's going to happen, and this is all part of my mind game, including like the story that we're reading right now, where he's like, I'm going to do this thing, and then I'm going to trick the warden to fall in love with me and be like, your sisters don't even love you, and then kill the other sisters.
That's so sad.
And then, like, I don't know. There's just a lot. There's so, like...
I think it ties in with the book. Like, the book, what is it called? The Jawarat.
Jawarat.
I didn't say that right. But that book
I think it's
has all of the knowledge of all the sisters and him put together. So if he gets that book, he assumes that he can use the magic and the knowledge of the sisters to rule the world. I think that's why he was going for the Jawarat. But he couldn't get it because he wasn't pure of heart. This is where our girl Zafira comes in, because she is the hunter, she's the compass, she's the North Star, and she comes in and gets the book. Right?
Do we actually think that she's pure of heart, though? Like, as a character?
I mean, she killed animals to eat.
Yeah,
I mean, I think so. Do you have your suspicions, Rachel? What?
I don't know. It's just... like, I know it's like such a typical thing to be like, the main character has to be the chosen one, but I was also like, she literally, like, her job is to go out and like kill animals in the forest, and I know she does it for a good reason, to like feed people, but she's like kind of an asshole to everybody in her life a little bit. So for them to be like, and you are the purest heart, I'm like, okay. Next page. Like, okay.
Rachel's like, tell me more about that.
I'm very judgmental. I know I'm not pure of heart. I can admit that. But I'm just saying, like, I'm very skeptical, because I like little twists where it's like, was it really that she was pure of heart, or was that not even really part of the thing? Like, I don't know. I'd be interested if there was like a little bit more of like a twist to that.
I think it was just in name, like in title alone, you know? That, and I guess she did feed the hungry. So call her a saint, whatever.
Well, I guess I was looking at it as like a foreshadowing thing, because the Silver Witch was like, no one's that pure, or like no one can be that pure of heart or something.
Yeah. She liked to drop those ominous notes.
Yeah, so like I wasn't sure if that was just like a general dialogue thing to just keep echoing in her mind and make her question, like, am I really pure of heart, or if it was going to be like a bigger theme that's like, there are goods and bads that people do, and maybe you're not like the best person, but you're still pure of heart. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm not even sure if that question gets answered, to be honest. Besides her getting the book. I mean, I guess.
I mean, I guess it like proves it, but
right.
I'm just curious if there's like more to it than that.
I'm gonna say no. Solid no. But I am interested to see like what happens in the second book, because they obviously will come back and have to deal with the Sultan, possibly still his influence under the lion, right? Because he hasn't broken that yet, right? And the reason why the Sultana left him, acted like she was dead and left him, is because of the lion's influence. So she was trying to protect her hubby that she was in love with, because he used to be a good guy, and now, he's kind of lost. So that, I think, will be an interesting story, and kind of seeing him interact with Nasir, or maybe Nasir interact with him.
Yeah, because I think the other thing that's like tragic about it is that like the amulet thing that is keeping him possessed, or at least it's implied, because when Nasir touched it one day, he was like, all this darkness flooded my mind and I heard terrible things. Like the thing that he wears around his neck is a gift from his wife. So it's sort of like when he was still like a good person, pure of heart perhaps, he put it on because he loved his wife so much. And he was such a wife guy where he just wore this thing, was like, I love my wife so much. And then the line was like, are you sure? I'm going to make you the worst person imaginable. And so, I don't know, maybe there's like that inner part of him that's still himself that's like, I won't take this off because it's the last thing I have of her. So it's like that little like tragic, bittersweet thing that's like the only way to maybe break his influence is to like take that away from him.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's exactly why he probably had it on initially.
Yeah.
Now he's possessed. So.
But it's also like very tragic to think that like Nasir will never really be able to repair his relationship with his dad because of that influence, making the Sultan do such like horrible things to Nasir, and it's completely shaped his personality and the way that he interacts with everyone around him, because he kind of thinks that like anyone I get close to will be used against me. So I would rather not have any attachment towards anyone whatsoever.
Poor baby.
So
I really feel bad for him.
You can't just be like, hey, your dad's not evil anymore, and be like, good, don't need therapy, I'm fine. Like, he will not be able to go back to the way things were before, which is so sad, because you know that the Sultan used to be a good person.
Right.
And now that's just,
Also, this comment right here, I thought it was so grimy that the mom was like, hey, Nasir, sorry for traumatizing you, but I needed to use you to deal with my personal problems and mistakes. Like, thanks, Mom.
Like I said,
Honestly.
here.
He kind of touches on this when he talks to her, too. He's like, what the hell? Like, why?
Like, literally everybody's using me. Literally everybody here is using me for something. Like, he has no... Are we sure Nasir isn't pure of heart? I like him.
He literally...
I like him.
He deals with that. I do, too. I think he's a cute little soft boy. But, like, he deals with that all the time. Like, the fact that he's an assassin and he doesn't want to be, like, he doesn't want to kill people, but he feels like he has to, or else the people he loves will be murdered. And I'm like, Nasir,
and literally, he was still thinking about those, like, orphan jockey boys from the beginning of the book all the way at the end. And, like, somebody's got to help him is, like, what he's thinking about at the end of the book.
Like, that's what's important to him. And I'm like, oh, this man. What was y'all's favorite part of the book? Do y'all have them?
No.
I would say probably my favorite thing, maybe instead of like a part, would be the kind of like banter between Nasir and Zafira once they kind of got past the "oh, you don't hate me" stage, right? Because Nasir would say, like, "Do you think I'm disgusting?" And I'm like, "Sir, you beautiful man, please."
Christine's
don't
like,
insult
sir,
me.
have you seen the fan art of yourself?
Right. Like, don't insult me like this, okay? Obviously, you're not disgusting. Anyway, moving on. Once they kind of like got over that, they had a cute little back and forth where, she would be like, are you all right? And he'd be like, if all right is like me basically barely living and like being here on this earth, then yeah, I'm good. And I liked that. Like, I was like tabbing the heck out of that. That was great.
I just loved every time, like, Zafira pointed out, like, how much Nasir cared for Altair, and, like...
Yes.
Yeah.
So true.
That was good, too.
I just thought that was so funny.
Exactly.
I
Sir, please.
So true.
The audacity. Oh my god!
The whole time I was reading this
He is
book, I
so
just kept
cool.
going to her Instagram, looking at fan art. Like, yep, this is good. Yep.
I need
The
to
fan
try-
art of Kifa, I'm like, chef's kiss.
I know. Oh my god, she's so pretty.
I love her.
Rachel
She's
said it's
actually-
fan art.
She's one of my favorite characters. I think she has a much bigger role in the book too, but
Her
she's-
backstory too is so.
I know, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo, I was like, girlfriend, and she
Also,
really
I
is gonna
couldn't-
stick it to her dad.
I couldn't tell if it was like trying to be like there's a part where they're like sitting down, I think like around a fire or something, and then Kifa's like explaining her backstory kind of with everything that happened, and then she says like so her dad hates magic and Kifa refused to be like him just in general, and because of that then he basically would always like physically like abuse her and like beat her, I think. And then Tamim, her brother, saved her, and because of that, he was sent to the R's, but not really, because I guess they just killed him on the way there to show her, which is like insanely brutal. But then there's a moment where Zafira's like, "Oh, did your dad ... And like I couldn't tell if that was like the implication of like, did he also sexually assault you, or was it just like
That was something I was wondering too.
That's what I got from it. I actually thought Zafira was kind of daft for asking that question because I thought she like pretty much explicitly said that anyway in the conversation.
Yeah, I agree with Jess.
Because I felt
Like
like there
when-
were some moments where sometimes like it wasn't always explicitly said, but you could tell like from the tone like what the characters were kind of saying without saying, and I figured that was one of those moments. But
Yeah,
was
because I think she said that Tammie found her and her dad in her bedroom,
Yeah.
and to
Oh,
me, like that explicitly is like, you know,
I thought that they said like he found her in a room that was like blood covering the walls, so I couldn't tell if that was just him like being like really really brutal. But I think I missed the part that said
Yeah.
bedroom.
Yeah, I remember them saying bedroom explicitly too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
let me see if I can find it too, because I definitely tapped that. I was like, girl, this is tragic.
Yeah, that was not good.
I just like, it made me like her a lot, and I did like that she kind of extended the olive branch because they are newcomers, like they don't know each other, and she's like, hey, you want some beef jerky? You know?
Yeah, because also
Welcome,
Zafira's like,
Jordan.
why would you give me anything? Why would you give me your peanut M&Ms?
Right.
It's like,
Yes.
listen, I have a tragic backstory too.
Right. Which is so interesting because I'm like, Zafira, it's not like you're not familiar with giving things away for free. Like you literally hunt for 300 people.
Yeah.
You know? But I guess maybe she's just not used to people being that way with her.
I think she's not used to receiving
Yeah.
Right.
on
Yeah.
the same level. Like even literally like being like, do you want some food? And be like, why would you give me food?
Right.
Like it's
For giving
so
me food.
I mean, especially food wise, because their village has basically no food. And then the fact that Khalif was like, oh, I'll make sure everyone is fed, even if I have to like dip into my own stores. Then it's
Right.
kind of like, you have food, you're just not giving it to people. But
You're just not with those people.
maybe this book too. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll see. But yeah, those are pretty much the parts. I also really liked the creatures in this one, like the kind of like magic system and things like that.
I did
Um,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never read a lot about Ifrit and kind of like Mina like inspired lore. So kind of dipping with this and then Daevabad is like very interesting because I saw the description for an Ifrit and I was like, that's an Ifrit! Like I knew what it was, you know? So I was kind of like, you know, I was like a little freaking out a little bit, but I'm okay. I like that. That was cool.
Well, also I feel like it kind of serves as a way to show the changing feelings of the people that are on the journey. At least in the case of Nasir, where he was like, when I see the Ifrit, I don't see anyone because I don't love anyone. And so he just like cuts them down. But then later on, he's like, when I saw one, I saw I keep forgetting her name.
Colsum.
Colsum. Yeah. And then he was like, oh, I saw her. But then she said something like, you love Zafira. You're going to get married to Zafira. And he was like, anyway.
Also, you really spoke the truth. This is why I loved him. He was like, excuse me. I know everything about you because we're blood, B. But yeah. Anyway, the bedroom page is page 284. It says, from my own father in my own bleeding bedroom.
Oh, bleeding bedroom. Okay.
Yeah. So there was a bloody part and a bedroom part, but anyway, I don't remember a Sphinx, guys.
I was
Me neither.
What part was this, Rachel? Tell me. Because I don't remember a Sphinx.
Did your cliff notes cover this scene?
I don't think so. I'm gonna search in page.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I just listened to it too
like they didn't
fast.
say Sphinx. Maybe they just described it. I don't know.
Rachel Maliapa, if you have a
chapter reference,
more specific thing we can look up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll go back to that. Anyway. All right. Well, what do you guys think? Anything else you want to chat about?
Has anyone's rating changed as we had this discussion, or is it pretty similar to where we were at the beginning?
Pretty similar. I do want to try and read the second book physically, though, because I feel like maybe the audiobook gave me an unfair rating, and also just reading it so fast. But because I don't feel like I had an emotional connection to it at all, really. So my rating really hasn't changed, but
yeah, I will say that it probably does depend on if you're doing it audio versus physical. But I did enjoy it physically. Like, it was fun to tab. I had a good time. So my rating's still a 3.5, I think, is where I'm going to settle. But it was fun. It was a fun time. I just wanted a little bit more.
I would agree with that. I think that, like, my rating of a 3.5 doesn't mean that I dislike the book in any way. I definitely enjoyed it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the second book is going to bring, especially because I heard it's more fast-paced. It might be a little bit more intriguing for me.
Sweet. I assume the 5 stars are still 5 stars.
Yeah.
This is my...
Especially because I, did have issues with it when I gave it the 5 stars. Like, and I do not see.
I'm like, objectively, I'd probably give it a 4-star, but like, I cried when Benjamin died, so like, Hafsah deserves 5 stars. Okay. I'm like, you got tears out of me, ma'am, so here you go. Like,
yeah,
I totally get that.
Experience is different, so that's good. You know, I'm actually really glad that you guys are here because I didn't know what I was expecting my co-host to rate it. Like, low-key, I was like, Nicole, I feel like we'll rate it a 4. She'll probably be the highest of the bunch. And like everybody else I thought was gonna be like lower. So I'm really glad that you guys came and talked because
we have a good range. We
want like a good range of ratings. But yeah, okay, cool. Any last words, thoughts, quotes you would like to share?
Oh, wait. Before we end, there was the very, very beginning of it, before even like chapter 1. Mm-hmm. So there's a thing that's like, love is for children, said the girl. Death is for fools, said the shadow. Darkness is my destiny, said the boy. Allegiance is my undoing, said the eagle. Suffering is our fate, said the beauty. And they were all horribly wrong. That's a good one, I will say.
Yeah, like who
I also just realized I have a signed copy, so like cool. I read the whole book and I just realized this.
Oh my god.
That's amazing. I love that.
Well, congratulations on your signed copy.
Love this for me.
That's really special. I'm glad you figured that out on this live. Yeah, I like that quote because I like to go back and be like, who was who, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, love is for children, said the girl, obviously Zafira, right? Death is for fools, we're thinking is the lion of night, right? Darkness is my destiny, is our boy, Nasir. Allegiance is my undoing,
said the eagle.
Altair, or is it Benjamin?
Tammie's looking at us like, you should know.
Who's the eagle? Is it Altair?
I have thoughts, but I also have thoughts that are shaped by book 2. So I'm just gonna zip it.
Well, because I'm again, don't take my opinion 100%, but just again, like I don't think these are things that have necessarily completely changed by the end of book 1. So I think that these are things that will continue to develop in book 2. So if Altair says allegiance is my undoing, that sounds a lot like feeling like, hey, you left me behind and I was loyal to you.
Oh, y'all, it could be Dean. I forgot about that man. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Forgot about that, man.
I'm so sorry. If I saw him in the street, I wouldn't know. I forgot.
We never
Because
talked
he
about
did-
him. I'm kind of
We did
glad
not.
about it because I hate
What's
the best friend
show?
love interest thing. So
I'm not a fan of it because I'm like, y'all could have gotten together a lot sooner than this book, and I would have been okay. That's why I don't like it. But he did say that line about how he was loyal to the hunter. He was the most loyal person to the hunter. That's why I'm thinking the allegiance line, right? No, wait, maybe not allegiance. Allegiance is a loyalty. Okay. I'm having an epiphany here. What do you people think?
I mean, I would think like the allegiance thing would be like much more with his backstory where he fought for the army and then he had like an honorable discharge to take care of his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone just shunned him like he abandoned, which he didn't do. But that just seems like such a tiny thing to make part of this like overall arching thing. And also the fact that Dean died like relatively early on in the story.
Yeah.
He's not
So
a part of
he's
this.
dead.
Unless he comes back somehow, but
Right.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. Be interesting, but I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Allegiance is my undoing. I'm going to come back to that. In the next live show, I'll have a definitive answer of what I think that is. I might even reach out to Hafsah and be like, so.
Send her a
you need to
DM.
know.
Please.
Yeah. You never know, you know. She'll probably be like, yeah, just read the second book, you weirdo.
Yeah, I was gonna say she literally would just be like, read the next book. Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna
You'll
tell
figure
you.
it out. Rip Dean. I felt bad for him, but also, did anybody cry when he died? What did
No.
we feel when he died?
Even I did not cry.
Right?
when
Okay.
he
I
died.
felt
So,
relief
like,
not having to deal with the forced romance anymore.
Thank you. I was like, why are you here, Dino? Why are you here?
I really
You know?
hate that like childhood best friend relationship thing in a fantasy book. Like, not here for it. Especially when
And I
she
hated it
doesn't like
for
him back in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to convince her, so stop trying. It's
And like they're
weird.
already like we already touched on that line where he's like, well, when people are in a relationship, they change for each other. And I'm
I
like,
literally,
sir, you're not the
literally
one.
wrote that down and then I put ... red flag.
Yeah, like, it's a red flag. If you want to change her, she is not the one for you. Take it from Dr. Phil, okay?
Exactly.
Like, no. So that was my red flag too. I was like, you can come on this trip, sir, but you're not surviving. I literally wrote that in the margin. I was like, he will be dead in the next like 2 chapters.
Oh
And
my
you were
god.
right. And you
That's
were right.
crazy.
Well, I will also say, and for people who are watching this that are in the Discord, maybe pro tip, but I was like somewhat active in the Discord, so I saw some of the like different chats where things happen, and no one explicitly said, "Hey, Dean dies," but they said like, I hate when they kill off the best friend main character." And I was like, okay, I didn't start the book.
oh no.
But now I think I know who you're talking about. So, quick pro tip for people: if you wish, you can always mute channels in case you haven't started the book yet, and then unmute them so that way you don't see any notifications at the top, such as "I hate it when the main character's best friend dies." Just saying.
I hate it when I get spoiled on a book.
Yeah.
That was rough. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess I probably should have set that up on the Discord ahead of time and been like, everybody mute it, but that was my bad.
We can put a little thing in there too.
Spoiler
just
tags
to kinda remind
exist.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
We
too.
can have spoiler tags.
Spoiler tags exist.
The other thing is sometimes I'm just like, ooh, what does that say? And then I click on it and I'm like, ah,
I do that too, and I'm like,
Well,
no.
that's not like your fault.
Yeah, that's a you problem.
it is. I
Yeah.
admit it. I'm not pure of heart, but
No. Monique will look up the plot to something before she watches it to make sure it's worth her time to watch it.
I'm like
that's
that with
her-
TV
that's her
shows.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a TV show, that's understandable for sure.
Yeah. I'll
But, like,
read
for a book,
episode
I'm like-
summaries for a whole season.
Yeah. I also
And
really
then
need
I'll
to
watch
stop
I do that
watching
too.
shows that only have one season, and then they cancel it the next year because that's happened to me too many times, and I'm about to unsubscribe from Netflix.
I know. I'm like, why do you get me hooked on these?
Yeah, or at least like
shows?
end it nicely. Like, why are you ending it?
Uh-oh.
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 Oh my god, I'm not the
Jess?
only one.
Solidarity. Wait, Jess, what was the
What were
last
you
thing you said?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I noticed I
Basically-
froze, and I was like,
Netflix do better.
I tried.
think, is what you're saying.
It remains shrouded in mystery. Maybe we'll find out next live show.
Also, Rachel said another book. So the Sphinx was not in this book, just to clarify.
Okay, I was wondering.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
all were. We were like,
I-
what?
I pressed Control F Sphinx and it was like 0 out of 0 results. I didn't think so. Whoops.
Jasmine did have this one kind of like comment. I know people have mixed feelings about Akhtar, but Nasir reminded me of Azrael. Maybe it's just me. What do we think, those of us that have read it?
haven't
I
read it.
barely
I've never
remember
read.
anything about Azrael, so I like Nasir better.
I think I can see this kind of in the way that he is like a shadow man. And he feels his self-worth is on the ground, like, you know, just in the dust. Like, he even says that he's like, I shouldn't even be able to call Zafira by her first name because I'm not worth it. Like, I'm not worthy.
That's what we love to see. That's the type of simp we love to see.
Like,
To be-
that's a simp. That is a sweet baby boy. We protect him at all costs, right? And I can see the kind of parallel between him and Azrael, because Azrael does have that same kind of disposition where he's like, I'm so evil, I'm so dark. And you're like, but honey, you're not. You're in fact one of the sweetest peoples, okay?
The thing is, like, I had a lot of trouble when I read the whole Akatar series telling, like, the side characters apart often.
Mhm.
I don't know if that was because I did audio or because I didn't pay enough attention. But I always kind of feel like for characters that are like, I'm so dark, I'm so mysterious, I'm like, prove it. Like, what have you done that's so dark and mysterious? And they're like, people don't like me because I'm so dark and mysterious. I'm like, that's not an explanation. In this case, Nasir, literally his job is to go and murder people.
Right.
Like, that's what he does. So when he's like, I'm dark, I'm like, yeah, you kill people, like, for a living, kind of. You have to do that. And then also his dad brands him on the back every time he's about to. Like, okay, you got a lot of trauma, and I see you. Like, your darkness and your edginess is valid. 100%.
Right.
For people who are just like, I'm just edgy for the sake of being edgy, I'm more like, you do you, but I don't agree.
That was crazy when she thought there were leeches on his back.
I know.
Y'all, I said, what kind of sicko? What kind of sicko is he? That's what I said when I read that. I said, what's happening? Hold on. And then it turns out to be scars. And I'm like, no.
A battered past.
My God. Maybe I liked Nasir the best. I keep talking about him.
I mean, as far as like, you know, funny, interesting, cool, I'll say you're great. But I do have a soft spot for Nasir. I will
He
say.
also, like, his tattoo that said, I loved once. I was like, this is the softest boy I think I ever have come across, I feel. You know? Like, he wants to remind himself that he has a soul. He gets a tattoo that says, I loved once. I'm like,
I love how you're all like, he's so soft, and in my notes I literally have, why is he so pathetic?
but like, he says that. He literally says, he's like, I'm pathetic.
Yeah,
I'm like, sure, you kind of are. Yeah. I can
a
see
little
that.
We
bit.
love it.
I'm like, sir, please.
Yeah, just like believe in yourself.
Like, that's also a hilarious tattoo to just see with no context on
Yeah.
someone. Like, oh, what's your tattoo? I loved once. It's like, sorry I asked.
This poor man. And the best part is he doesn't think that she can read the script because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
a different language. And little does he know she actually is an elven connoisseur. So,
Connoisseur.
but she knows what it says, sir. Ditto with the pathetic. Lord bless him. He just needed some
No,
help.
if I have to read about a man, he better be self-aware and soft.
So he's perfect. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, he's a good one.
He was. I liked that he knew that he was But also he, at some point, needs to realize he doesn't actually want to kill people, so he's not.
Yeah, like he can get his like confidence up and just tell his dad no. Like
he was pretty confident when they were getting in those little scenes. I was like, "Sir, you
That's
slide your
true,
hand
yeah.
where? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, who? So what?"
Oh my god! Also, when he okay, again, don't listen to me. But okay, there was a scene apparently where he like stokes a flame, and then he can talk to his dad, and his dad's like, "You're so terrible. You never do anything. You haven't cleaned your room. Like he's just terrible." And then like Nasir is just like he's like curling up in a ball from like the abuse that he's like the verbal abuse that he's just spewing, and then Altair and Zafira are in the background like, oh my god. And like I don't know, the vulnerability of like getting to see that from like the other characters' perspectives and stuff. I assume when I eventually read it I will feel things, but I'm just saying the recap made me a little bit.
And what's interesting about that part is, so in that moment, we don't know for sure in that moment, but like obviously the dad's got some darkness, something's controlling him. So then we find out later that darkness is the Lion of Night, right?
Yeah.
And at the very, very end of the book, Rachel, this is a spoiler, 100%. We find out that the Lion of Night is Altair's father.
Yeah.
So then you have to ask yourself, in that moment when he is being mean to his lover's other son, is it because of that, or is it just because he truly is evil?
Ew.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, it's really gonna tell me in the next book how the Lion of Night, how he is based on how he treats Altair, because he's in captivity, right? So maybe I'm putting too much on this man. Like maybe he
No,
truly is this
I think
evil.
that would make it much more interesting, because I do think that like things that tend to or like the tropes that I think like suffer the most in a lot of these YA fantasies are to just have like a super evil thing that's just evil for the sake of being evil,
right?
Rather than like with any sort of goals or any sort of weaknesses or any sort of emotion. And so having something where it's like the Lion of Night is the bad guy, obviously he's the antagonist, but if he's only like he's bad in general, but if he's being especially bad to someone for a personal reason,
right,
it makes it much more interesting, and it makes it also much more appealing when you're trying to think of like, how do we take this person down,
right,
and how do we stop what's going on, because now we know that he has some kind of appeal to human emotion rather than just being like, I'm evil, you can never stop me. Then it gives you something to actually
work with,
really pull you in. So I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah,
I really didn't think that hard about that. Where I was just like, oh man, that sucks. He's been controlling him, and wow, I was just trying to wrap my mind around that whole part.
Well, it was just something that I kind of like realized as like after the fact, obviously. And so I was like, I wonder if that is what it is, or he is just this evil entity.
Yeah.
But I'm also always interested in the villain origin story. Excuse me.
Same.
So that's kind of why I went there, because I was like, what makes this man crazy? Is it because he couldn't be with the sister? Is that what it was? And he wanted to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah, he wanted to be the ruler of whatever, which maybe
right. But what does that mean if you're alone? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, my thoughts on that. So
very interesting.
Yeah, lots to think about. I'm ready for the second book. I'm hoping it's going to be better, and I have full faith that it will be. So I'm excited.
I'm hoping for 5 stars all around.
Yeah, same.
Wouldn't that be a complete crazy turnaround if we're all like 5 stars, every single person? It's just the best thing ever.
Can't wait. It's gonna be great. 5 stars, everybody. Don't forget.
Don't forget. Yeah.
So we will be doing book 2, We Free the Stars, next month, and we will be in the Discord creating a chat for everything like that. So don't worry about that. Again, if you are interested in reading along with us and discussing it, we have the different discussion channels, but maybe consider muting the ones that you're not caught up to yet, in case You don't want to get any spoilers whatsoever. And we also have a channel where you can find a buddy if that's something that you want to do to read this book. But we are going to be reading that next month before we move on to the next series, because this is only a duology. For people who are in the Discord, you can definitely vote or offer some series suggestions, so that way we can put it into a poll and then we can vote next month to see what we're going to read for the next series. But we will announce a live show whenever that comes around, whenever we decide when the We Free the Stars show is going to be. And maybe, just maybe, we'll have our guest hosts back with us, hopefully. But I think that basically wraps it up.
Yeah, it does. I think we do have a couple of like questions we're probably going to want answered in the Discord, just about like live dates and kind of if you guys want to do a live show for like reading sprints. Because I know we kind of talked about that a little bit, but it was very last minute. So we want to actually plan that out. If that's something that the rest of the book club is interested in, then we'll, plan accordingly and be much more organized than we were last month. But yeah, any last?
Oh, Christine?
Quotes?
Oh, no.
Very fitting. The last
Did
second.
I
You're
go
like,
out again?
Yeah.
You're back though.
Oh my
You're
God,
good.
my life. Okay, I was like, any last quotes or comments or whatever? Anything. Poetry.
Everybody has to compose a haiku now. Go.
Absolutely not.
I like
Well, Jess, only you're smart enough to do that on the fly. So
No,
Go ahead
that
and
is untrue.
false.
Oh,
I did like.
false.
I was gonna
I
say there
liked-
are a lot of like one-liners that are good in this book. I did appreciate that. I'll say
Rachel's
that.
over there actually trying to make a
hold on.
haiku.
I have a haiku. I liked Sir Nasir, even though Tammie thinks he is pathetic. Boom.
Is it 575?
Yes, it is.
Ooh,
Anyway, on that note,
I'm not smart enough. I can't do it. Yeah, on that note, I guess we're gonna log off here, guys. So anyway, thanks so much for joining us. If you were in the chat and you engaged, thanks so much for being here. Like Rachel said, we'll have the next live show next month. We'll announce it in the Discord. So if you guys aren't on the Discord, please utilize that link down below. I also have links for all the hosts, and I'm going to link all the links for Lisa and Tammie as well. I just did not have that prepared beforehand because I am a slacker. So anyway, as we said, thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you guys next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.